Welcome to Talk About Topeka Live, coming to you from the Topeka Performing Arts Center in downtown Topeka. We are connecting the art with Phil Grecian today. This segment is brought to you by EverythingTopeka.com, and I'm your host, Chris Schultz. We're going to be talking to my good friend, Phil. How are you?
I'm still alive. You?
Well, I think I'm there too.
Yeah, well, there you
I
go.
was better, but I think I'm over it. I use that one too. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Phil Grecian is a legend in Topeka.
Okay. Don't you have to be dead to be a legend?
Well, you're not dead
I'm
yet.
not dead
You're
yet.
a living legend.
Yeah.
A living legend in Topeka.
All right.
And you have done so many things for the arts in our community, and I wanted to talk because it's the holiday season right now.
Yeah.
And you have, taken all of your experience that you've garnered from Topeka, and you created for the Christmas Story the stage adaptation for it that they use all over the world. So tell us about that. That's pretty cool.
Well, when the kids were little, my wife and I were looking for a movie to take them to. And there was this movie that nobody'd heard of called A Christmas Story. And my wife said, it looks like kids can see this. So, well, okay, fine. So we went to see it and enjoyed it. And I realized it was based on the stories of Gene Shepherd, whose books I had been reading. So a few years later, now at this point, nobody knew what A Christmas Story was. And a few years later, my publisher, because I write plays for a living, my publisher called me and said, I've got an idea for you. We've bought these rights. Have you ever heard of a movie called A Christmas Story? Yeah. And in fact, when we had seen the movie, as it came up on the screen, because I had read the Gene Shepherd stories to my children, and as it came up on the screen, a film by Gene Shepherd, Roxanne, my oldest daughter, leaned over and said, "Our Gene Shepherd." I said, "Guess so." And there were all these stories. I'd read them. So I said, "Yes, I'm familiar with those stories." And she said, "Well, we'd like you to write a stage version of that." So I did. And as I was writing it, Shep was reading what I was writing and passing on. And one of the big problems was Shep said he wanted the narrating character to be there. You know, in the movie, there's a voiceover that describes things that are going on. He said, "We want that." Well, you don't do that on stage. You don't do that with a play, this disembodied voice. So I decided to make a memory play out of it. And we have Ralphie grown up, talking directly to the audience and moving through the thing and talking to people about what happened, and then we see him as a boy. And periodically then the actor who plays Ralphie steps into the thing and becomes other characters, like the man who delivers the box with the leg lamp in it and characters like that. So I wrote it, and I was in the middle of the second act when the publisher called me and said, "I've got bad news." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Shep died." And he had gone to the hospital and hadn't told us, and he died. So he never got to see it, and he never got to see how it ended, but I suspect he knew how it ended.
He hasn't haunted you yet.
No. And
good.
so the publisher said, we released it like in October or something, and the publisher said, we're not going to get very many theaters around the country doing it because it's getting kind of late. Well, something like 23 theaters canceled what they were going to do and then did A Christmas Story. And then every year since, there have been about anywhere from 85 to 90 to 100 productions of A Christmas Story. A lot of them professional companies, which I'm in favor of because the royalties are better from professional companies. And it's been going on since. Now, as you and I are sitting here now, there are about 100 companies now doing it.
Wow.
The first company that was a pro company was Cleveland Playhouse, which, interestingly, is where they shot a lot of the film. It was in Cleveland.
Speaking of you'll shoot your eye out.
You'll
kid.
shoot your eye,
You have to say the line. I'm looking for every opportunity to use the little lines in here. That I
well,
can.
and when I got the galleys back from the publisher, I had Kate Hastings sit down with me because going through galleys is troublesome. What happens is you have somebody read the play, and then you look and make sure that everything you wrote on the manuscript is in the printed version. And Kate got to a certain place, and she said, "Where's the line about lobsters crawling out of my ears?" I said, "Well, I didn't use that one." She said, No, that's got to go in. So I penciled it in, and it was in the final. And I discovered that a lot of people had very favorite lines that you better include. So a lot of those things went in, and people think you adapt a movie to the stage, you just where they change a shot, you just have a curtain fall or something. It's two completely different art forms, but what you have to do is you have to convince people that what you've done is put the movie on stage, even if you hadn't. And I've had people sit with the book, the script, and watch the film and say, "Oh no, that's not the way it works." But the trick is to make people think that's what they're seeing, because you can't do a movie on stage.
Right.
So it's been good, and then shortly thereafter, Cleveland Playhouse, as I said, was my first professional company doing it. And then once one equity company, professional company, finds out about a play, then everybody starts doing it. So it's been essentially it and about a dozen other plays are how I've made my living, sitting here in Topeka, Kansas.
It's pretty cool.
And my son is a novelist, a New York Times best-selling author, and he's sitting here in Topeka, Kansas. So
yeah, you
can do anything.
Absolutely. Do you think the world being a little more connected today makes it easier for people to do that?
Sure. There are things. Now, you've been in show business yourself since you were a child. I've been in show business since I was 4. And if the internet had been around when I was a child or when you were a child, think of how many chances to talk to people. I mean, I started out as a magician and ventriloquist, and I was 4. And all I saw was Paul Winchell on television, and that was it. And occasionally Edgar Bergen. And occasionally a magician would come on Sullivan. And I didn't even see another magician until I was probably 12 or 13. And I didn't see another ventriloquist until I was about 14 or 15. But now I'm friends with all kinds of ventriloquists and magicians and playwrights just through the internet. And this allows you to sit in Topeka, Kansas, and connect with everyone out there. And as a result, I think, and Topeka has been interesting as far as a cultural center, because I give Meningers a lot of credit. When Meningers was here, people would come from all over the world to study at Meningers, and they would say, "Where's the theater?" And they'd point, and they'd get involved. And pretty soon other groups would break off of theaters, and there would be smaller theaters. The same with ballet, and the same with art galleries. And it grew as a result of that kind of connecting from outside that wasn't around. There was no internet. So this was sort of a reverse internet. And people come into this town and look around and say, a town this size with all of this art going on?
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, and as I say, I give Meningers a lot of credit, but then other people had to get the ball rolling as well. And as we sit here, there are rehearsals going on across town, and shows going on, and music, and lots of things. So it's Topeka, Kansas, but it's also this little cultural center where things go on.
And you've been around here for so long.
Thousands of years.
I mean, you've had a lot of influence in that. We were just talking about, as we were in here at the Topeka Performing Arts Center, you helped put that all together. You were
well. I was on a committee, yeah, sure, but the building was here long before I was.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But
and I founded what's now the Hawker Theater, and the Showcase, which is not there anymore, but it ran for about 13 years. So mostly what happens, people in the arts, you and your brother, and people in the arts, they kind of have to do these things. So if you sit around too long, you say, "Hey, let's go out and do this," and then it happens. Yeah. And usually you do it with no money to speak of, but you figure out a way.
Yeah. And then someone with money comes along.
Comes along and says, "Hey, here's a couple bucks. That's pretty good." Yeah.
It's good stuff. Well, I just wanted to tell your story about a Christmas story and how that all came about, because we are right here at the holidays, and I think it's really cool, and people need to know that in our community, great things do come out, great things do spread, and you're one of those great things.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to know you, my friend.
And you too.
Phil Grecian, the author of the stage adaptation for A Christmas Story. And did anybody ever tell you you'll shoot your eye out when you thought you'd come?
Constantly.
They had to. Well, I'm still doing it right here.
And my publisher even sent me, the first year, sent me a Red Ryder BB gun.
We should go into business for making leg lamps for your
yeah, I've got one
shows.
of those in the front room,
okay,
too.
Good. You got 100 of them this year. We could have made some money on that, Phil. Let's do it. All right. We want to thank our sponsor for this segment, EverythingTopeka.com. EverythingTopeka.com is home to the Topeka newsletter and maintains the most comprehensive list of ways to enjoy our community. Check out their site. And check out the gablocal.tv site for a full archive. This guy's been on our show before. You can see some of his other exploits that we've talked about.
Yeah, those chairs were better, though.
So many great things. Just go there. You can search his name and find out all those other things. The Drunkard. There's so many other things that we've talked about over the years, and so many great stories. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
You bet. And thank you, folks, for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment on, and share this comment with your friends to let them know how happy and proud you are to be living here in Topeka. Thanks, folks.